one of the most well-known reality TV families on TLC, has experienced a sudden medical crisis that has affected their father, Jim Bob Duggar. Jim Bob was taken to the hospital after suffering a heart attack 2 days ago. Fans, admirers, and the family itself have all been surprised by this news. A picture of Jim Bob lying in a hospital bed went viral on Instagram within hours of the occurrence, garnering followers from all around the world. People from all across the world offered heartbreaking comments and prayers. The family has been informed by the doctors that there is no reason to be alarmed right now, but they have also stated that it will take time for him to recover. According to insiders, Jim Bob's wife, Michelle Duggar, and their numerous children are mentally damaged as a result of their fear of losing the man who has long served as the focal point of their close-knit, although frequently tense, family. Late last night, according to those close to the Duggar family, Jim Bob abruptly began experiencing intense, excruciating chest discomfort when he was at home in Arkansas. The 59-year-old family patriarch was reportedly attending a quiet family get-together when the pain worsened, leading to his fainting and breathing difficulties. Disbelieving family members took quick action. Michelle immediately begged for assistance, as did some of the older children there. Jim Bob was taken to a local hospital by paramedics who arrived at the Duggar residence in a matter of minutes. Those with knowledge of what transpired reported that the medical staff summoned an assault of the heart. According to early reports, his condition was so severe that doctors hurried him to urgent care in order to restart his heart. In the days before his hospitalization, the Duggar family was inconsolable and in tears. According to one insider, he was gripping his chest and had trouble breathing. Michelle was attempting to keep everything together while the children sobbed, but everyone was terrified. By the time Jim Bob arrived at the hospital, his family members had already been informed about his hospitalization. There, a photo of Jim Bob in a hospital bed with 4 lines and monitors surfaced online within hours. People quickly confirmed that the photo was authentic, and it quickly went viral on Instagram accounts that report on the Duggar family. The comments were immediately flooded with sincere prayers and words of support from fans who had been following the family for years. "I'm praying for you, Jim Bob," one admirer said. "God has always been with your family, and he will be with you now. Remain strong, Duggar family," she said. "Numerous lives have been impacted by you." The following day, Jim Bob's family issued the first public statement on behalf of the doctors who were responsible for his care, emphasizing that although they were aware of the severity of the heart attack, there was no need to panic immediately. "We are all praying for healing," one doctor said. "Though things appear to be going well, it will take time for him to recover." Michelle Duggar, who has been with Jim Bob for decades, through numerous pregnancies, and through numerous public scandals, appeared visibly upset, according to people who saw her in the hospital hallways. Despite efforts to calm the public, the Duggar family was apprehensive and scared inside the hospital. One insider said, "Michelle has been crying a lot. She's worried, but she's trying to be strong for the kids." As soon as they heard, the Duggar children, many of whom are already adults with their own families, went to the hospital. The news. As a family they have experienced a lot, but this feels different. It's their father, their anchor. From Jessa to Jana to John David to Joanna, family members flocked to their father's side to support their mother. According to reports, even those who have severed their connections with the family's inner circle were shaken by the news. One insider claimed that the children were crying and embracing one another, serving as a reminder of how fleeting life is, regardless of the issues the family was facing at the time. The image of Jim Bob in the hospital bed served as a rallying point for both fans and skeptics, and within hours of its posting, it went viral on social media, with fans using hashtags like #PraisForJimBob and #DuggarStrong. On Instagram, there were numerous prayers, Bible passages, and touching testimonies from followers who claimed that the Duggars had inspired them to begin their own family adventures. One supporter wrote, "You've taught us so much. A lot about faith and family." At the same time, the picture's popularity sparked conversations about the family's complex public legacy. While many followers were very supportive, some questioned the decision to post such a private event publicly. However, the majority of those who responded were sympathetic and concerned about the man who had built a reality TV empire around his home. Some medical experts didn't want to be named. It's clear that Jim Bob needs to calm down because he has a lot on his plate with politics, TV stardom, and other things. According to a cardiologist, the most important thing is how quickly the patient gets treatment. Mr. Duggar was fortunate to have family nearby who acted quickly. Doctors have stated that his recovery will require more than just rest. He will also need to make significant lifestyle changes. Michelle Duggar has always been viewed as the head of the family, but this crisis has brought out her role as caretaker in a new way. Witnesses say she was always with Jim Bob, holding his hand, praying aloud, and offering words of comfort. Having 19 children means he will need to prioritize his health in a way he hasn't before, which means eating well, exercising, and reducing stress. He needs to prevent the next heart attack. Since so many of the Duggar children are now adults with their own families, it has been both comforting and important for the siblings to stick together during this time. Family members have also stated that Michelle has been relying heavily on her older children for help. Despite the pain in her eyes, the medical worker said Michelle has been a rock and doesn't leave his side for long except when the doctors tell her to take a short break. The hospital is both depressing and uplifting. According to one insider, the waiting room has frequently been packed with siblings taking turns sitting by their father's bed, reading the Bible, quietly singing hymns and praying together, as if they're erecting a shield of faith around their father. Some of the children have been very active in communicating with doctors and updating other family members on their condition, be it making phone calls, cooking for Michelle, or simply being there for each other emotionally. It's been an all-hands-on-deck situation. Outside of the hospital, fan groups have formed prayer chains, online support organizations, and even small groups at local churches. Duggar fan pages on Facebook began hosting live prayer sessions, and videos of supporters on TikTok sending supportive messages quickly received thousands of views. Since the family has shown so much of their lives on television, many people felt as though they knew Jim Bob when they learned that he was in the hospital, despite their poor public image. One admirer commented, "We feel like we know them. We see them mature. All we want is for Jim Bob to get better." The Duggars have been unable to escape public scrutiny despite all the assistance. The family's past scandals, ranging from political disputes to personal issues, have raised the family's history once more following their hospitalization. While the majority of viewers concur that the moment is unassailable, one journalist stated, "Regardless of your opinion of the Duggars, this is a human story. A father of 19 children nearly passed away. His family is in pain and they need your assistance." According to the most recent information, Jim Bob is still in stable health and under constant medical supervision. The doctors have not yet stated when he will be allowed to leave, but they emphasize that rest and, on the other hand, the Duggar family is preparing for what may be a long road to recovery. According to those who know, the siblings are already discussing ways to ensure that their father doesn't feel overburdened when he returns home, and some have suggested that Michelle and her children and grandchildren alternate spending time with him, which would allow her to recover from the emotional toll as well. For the time being, the Duggar family is still focused on faith, family, and hope. A family member went on to say, "We think God has a plan." Jim Bob Duggar's hospitalization is more than just a medical problem. It's a turning point for one of America's most well-known reality TV families. It has made supporters realize how fleeting life is, prompted many prayers, and temporarily halted arguments in favor of kindness. The Duggar family's greatest challenge is remaining strong while the patriarch tries to regain his strength. Jim Bob Duggar has been in the hospital for 3 days now, and while the shock of his heart attack has subsided a little, the situation still weighs heavily on his family and the millions of fans who have followed the Duggars for nearly 2 decades. The next chapter hasn't been written yet, but one thing is certain. This crisis has shown everyone, family and fans alike, just how human Jim Bob Duggar really is. The hospital vigil has turned into a test of Michelle Duggar and her children's fortitude, and a reminder of their unwavering faith. Porters worldwide are glued to updates and bombarding social media with prayers, comments, and words of hope. The atmosphere surrounding the family is both strong and fragile at the same time, a mixture of dread and faith that demonstrates how important Jim Bob is to the Duggar household. Jim Bob is still tight but hopeful inside the hospital, where doctors say he survived the heart attack because they acted quickly, but his body is now vulnerable and frail. We'll find out in the coming weeks if his heart can get stronger without any more issues. Nurses come and go quietly, checking his vitals, changing his medications, and updating the family on everything that happens. Michelle, who rarely leaves her. He has been able to give his wife and children brief nods, feeble smiles, or quiet words of consolation, which, despite his weak voice and low energy, have given the family a great deal of comfort by reminding them that he is still fighting and still there. It feels like every beep of the monitor and every comment from the medical staff is enormous. She frequently leans forward, holding Jim Bob's hand and whispering prayers that only he can hear. People typically view Jana as the silent backbone of the family, helping her younger siblings by making sure Michelle eats, drinks water, and gets some rest, even if it's only for a short time. They have witnessed Jessa and Ben entering the hospital with home-cooked food to share with family members during long evenings, and they are frequently busy with their own lives and responsibilities, while juggling their strong desire to remain close to their father. John David has been in charge of communication, ensuring that updates are sent to siblings who live farther away, and that information stays truthful and courteous in the midst of all the media speculation. Jill, who has had a complicated and sometimes strained relationship with her parents, is said to have reached out after hearing about her father's heart. Joanna has been sitting quietly by her father's bed for a long time, singing softly or reading scripture aloud, as is her nature. She may not be there every hour like some of the others, but she has checked in, and that means a lot to Michelle. It is still unclear if she receives in-person visits, but those close to the family say that this health issue has made some of the walls that years of fighting had constructed less strong. In times like today, old hurts don't mean as much. What matters most is family and the desire that everyone can get along. The Duggars meet in the hospital waiting area. The older Duggar children alternately look after the younger ones so that their parents can spend time with them. The family has resorted to their faith a lot, praying together, singing hymns, and reading the Bible in between periods of sadness and exhaustion. The room is almost never quiet or empty because there are so many people in the family. Grandchildren walk around, and their laughter occasionally breaks the gloomy silence. The viral image of Jim Bob in his hospital bed, on the other hand, is still all over social media. Instagram accounts that focus on Duggar news have been asking for prayers almost every hour, and TikTok users have been sharing stories about how the Duggar family changed their perspectives on faith and family. Those who have been there say the mood is very emotional, but everyone agrees that God has a plan, even when things are unclear. In addition to the hashtags #PrayerForJimBob and #DuggarStrong becoming popular, they have also resulted in the formation of small prayer groups in churches throughout the Midwest and beyond, with fans gathering in their living rooms, holding hands, and lowering their heads in prayer for the man who, through reality television, became a source of conflict for some and a symbol of conservative family values for others. Even those who have previously spoken negatively about the family have set aside their differences, at least for the time being, to show support for a father and grandfather who are going through a difficult time. Some claim that the Duggar heritage, which is rife with scandals and controversy, makes it difficult for people to react. But even so, the media frenzy surrounding the hospitalization has brought the Duggars back into the spotlight. Outside the hospital, reporters wait for official news or watch family members come and go. Local news stations in Arkansas begin their nightly shows with updates on Jim Bob's health, while national news outlets discuss what this means for one of reality TV's most well-known families. The human story is more important than anything else when a father of 19 children has a health issue this serious. The doctors have begun preparing the family for the changes that will need to be made once Jim Bob is well enough to return home, telling him to completely rethink his way of life, stressing the importance of getting enough sleep, lowering stress, and eating well. This change will be difficult for someone who is used to the fast-paced demands of juggling both public and family responsibilities. Michelle, however, has already begun to demonstrate that she is prepared to go to any lengths to keep her husband healthy. According to a family member, she told the doctors that she would do everything in her power to support him. She has also started discussing with the older children how to divide up the work, so that Jim Bob doesn't feel overburdened. The Duggar children are both excited and afraid that their father may no longer be the family's primary source of strength. According to one sister, he has always been the center. Fan groups continue to play a significant role in defining the story of Jim Bob's rehabilitation. It's difficult to imagine life without him, but we'd rather have him here, even if it means everything changes. This illustrates how much the family will need to change, knowing that the man who once led them with boundless energy now needs to be cared for and protected in a way they have never done before. Groups on Facebook with thousands of members pray for his recovery every day. Fans post updates and supportive messages on Twitter, tagging family members in the hopes that their messages reach the Duggars during this difficult time. And some fans have even begun to amass money, not because the Duggar family needs it, but as a show of support, to donate to heart health organizations in Jim Bob's honor. These actions demonstrate how much the public cares for the family. Jim Bob's rehabilitation in the hospital room is characterized by small but significant steps. According to reports, on the second night after his admission, he and Michelle said a little prayer, thanking God for saving his life. By the third day, he was able to sit up a little with assistance, which caused his children to cry with relief. Every small step has been met with gratitude and renewed hope. One Duggar child was heard saying, "It's like we're celebrating each and every breath." The road ahead is not easy at all, but it makes you think about how much we don't appreciate it. Doctors have informed the family that recovery from a heart attack is not always a straight line, and that it can leave you feeling scared, exhausted, or discouraged at times. Michelle's challenge will be to strike a balance between her innate desire to help everyone around her, and the necessity to look after herself and her husband in this new chapter. The general public watches with a mixture of interest, sympathy, and thoughtfulness. For those who have been watching 19 Kids and Counting and its spin-offs for a long time, Jim Bob's hospitalization feels like the end of one chapter, and the beginning of another that isn't clear yet. Others worry that Michelle would exhaust herself trying to keep everything together, but those who know her well say that her faith is what keeps her going through sleepless nights and constant concern. As the third day draws to a close, the Duggar family remains together, maintaining their vigil. The faint footsteps of siblings moving between the waiting area and Jim Bob's bedside may be heard in the hospital hallways. People are still praying in low voices. Side fans hold small vigils with candles that glow in the darkness. And some people ponder the effects that fame, responsibility, and constant attention might have on a person's health. Jim Bob Duggar's journey through this dilemma is far from over. The entire Duggar family will need to be patient, strong, and change in order to get better. Despite all the worry, grief, and uncertainty, one thing has become clear. Love has brought this family and all of their loved ones together. The evening breeze is a sign of hope and healing. Families across America bow their heads and say prayers for a man they may never meet, but whose story has somehow affected their lives. A weak but welcome sense of hope has begun to permeate the Duggar family as the anxious days in the hospital drag on for nearly a week. Doctors say Jim Bob Duggar's health has been steadily improving after his heart attack, and if his condition continues to improve, he may be able to go home. Many supporters are closer together than ever before, even if they were almost in a tragedy. And as long as his heart keeps beating, there is still hope for healing, making amends, and starting over. The family's vigil has been lengthy, intense, and tearful, but now it is transitioning into preparation for a new chapter that will require patience, sacrifice, and perhaps even more unity than the Duggars have displayed in years. Michelle Duggar and their children are both relieved and saddened to hear the news. They can finally leave the sterile confines of the hospital, but the hard work of caring for Jim Bob is just getting started. Though he is still weak and exhausted most of the time, Jim Bob has started to talk more. He has brief conversations with his wife and children, and told us he was ready to go home. One family member said, "I don't want to be in the hospital anymore. I just want to be with my family again." The devices in Bob's hospital room have changed from scary quiet to a continuous sound that helps people heal. Michelle is always there for him, and she often puts her hand on his arm to make sure he is still there. You can see the relief in her eyes, but you can also see that she knows she has a lot of work to do, understanding that when Jim Bob gets home, much of the work of keeping an eye on his health will be up to her. A hospital worker said she is already asking the nurses a lot of questions. She said of the Duggars, who just days earlier had been wondering if they would ever hear their father's voice again. A few of the older siblings have offered to take turns visiting the family home when Jim Bob gets out of the hospital, so that Michelle doesn't have to do it all by herself. One child said, "We all agreed that Dad's recovery is our top priority, right?" Indicating that she is preparing to be a caregiver in a whole new way. She wants to know everything, including how to give him his medications, what to do if he feels pain again, and how much activity he can handle. Right now, that entails doing whatever it takes to put our careers, children, and other commitments on hold. To keep Mom from being overly anxious, we will alternate being present. In order to save Jim Bob from having to climb stairs, arrangements have already been made to turn a room below into a temporary recovery area. While things have been happening within the family, the outside world has continued to observe and pray. Enthusiasts who have been devotedly following each update were ecstatic when the initial rumors that Jim Bob will soon be published reached them. People who prayed for him when he suffered a heart attack are now thanking God for preserving his life, according to Instagram postings that read, "God is good to celebrate answered prayers." As Jim Bob recovers at home, we will continue to pray for strength, one fan wrote. But even during the celebration, physicians have warned everyone to exercise caution, telling the family that the next 3 weeks are very important, and that even though Jim Bob survived the initial trauma, his heart is still weak. One cardiologist said, "This is a big change. If he pushes too hard and ignores the signs, it could happen again." The Duggar family, particularly the children who have always viewed their father as an unstoppable force, has come together around a shared goal to keep Jim Bob safe at all costs, and even younger siblings have been told. The grandchildren, who are too young to comprehend the severity of the situation, have been told that Grandpa needs extra rest, and that they should be kind when they come. The Duggars are determined to make it work, but the transition from noise, laughter, and activity to calm and caution will be difficult. Simple things to do include not frightening him with loud noises, and remembering to ask before sitting on his lap. People who know her say she has already begun reading about heart-healthy diets and plans to cook new meals at home, even if it means breaking long-standing family traditions. She has always been the emotional center of the family, but now she is taking on a more active role as Jim Bob's protector. She has also stated that once Jim Bob is strong enough, they can plan daily walks for him, framing the exercise as a way for them to spend time together rather than as a. The ordeal has been humiliating for Jim Bob himself, who used to be known for his boundless energy and imposing presence, but now he is lying quietly in his hospital bed thinking about what almost happened. Michelle told the kids that this is a new season of life, and that they should accept it rather than fight it. According to one insider, Michelle is determined to keep him healthy and alive for as long as she can, aside and understand that life is short. One child, crying, said, "We need to love each other while we can." He seemed to be speaking from a place of deep understanding, as if he knew how close we came to losing him. Siblings who have occasionally been apart from the family have not disregarded this call for unity. While not everyone has made the decision to reconcile in public, there have been small gestures like phone calls, texts, and even handwritten letters sent to the hospital. We're not sure if these gestures will bring about enduring peace, but for Michelle and Jim Bob, the fact that some walls are beginning to come down is already a victory. The media remains encamped outside the hospital, anticipating photos of Jim Bob leaving with Michelle at his side as the family prepares to leave, and they are speculating about how this health issue might impact the Duggar family's future public presence. Some believe that Jim Bob might permanently withdraw from the spotlight and concentrate on his health, and the family doesn't seem to care as much about what people think of them right now as they do about recovering in private. Siblings talk about getting the house ready, planning meals, and creating routines in quiet voices. Michelle keeps whispering prayers of thanks in the hospital room. Some people believe that the family will one day share their story in public as a sign of faith and survival. Regardless, the Duggars are once again in the public eye because of this circumstance, and her hand is always near Jim Bob's. Supporters across the nation are praying, celebrating, and anticipating the day when the family declares that Jim Bob has finally returned home. The next chapter will be one of transformation. The grandmother, who has always protected her family, now works as a caretaker. Children who once relied on their father's strength must now give it to him. and fans who once. Even though Jim Bob Duggar's journey isn't finished yet, those who watch from a distance now feel a strong connection to a story of survival, hope, and strength. The family is ready for things to change, but they are doing it together, united by their faith, love, and the belief that this trial, no matter how terrible it has been, is a gift, a second opportunity for a man whose life has affected millions. If you enjoy the video, then leave a comment below and follow us by subscribing to the channel. Thank you.